All right. So, as the agenda for the webinar, every single time, what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the top 5 submissions of the particular month's challenge. So, in this case, we had the email campaign analysis. We're going to talk about them. Every single one of us is going to cover the reports. So, for each report, there's going to be 2 judges mainly. But if we also have additional comments, we can always introduce them as well, right? So, we're going to talk about things we like about the reports. We're going to talk about things we think could be improved upon. And the most important aspect of all of this is remember that none of the things that we say here is always going to be, strictly written in stone. A lot of the things that we discuss here or we talk about is more of a guideline that you need to take into consideration whenever you're building a report. Because in the end of the day, you have to adapt the report to the actual end user. That's one of the primary goals of building a report. Now, following that, of course, if you have any opinion of your own regarding the reports, anything in particular as it feature-wise, make sure you tell us about it because we love to have a discussion as well. And we're going to have a Q&A session at the end after revealing the winner. Because I mean, the whole thing is about announcing the winner, right? That's the kind of the main idea here. So once we do that, we're going to have a Q&A session as well. If you do have any questions, feel free to post them, and the team afterwards are going to provide those to us so we can answer and discuss them further on. All right. Yeah, there we go. You also know had for a brief moment, there's probably going to be, yeah, there we go, the QR code. So if any one of you wants to jump into the challenge page, you can also do that by scanning the QR code very quickly in the live session as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly start sharing the screen and let's go through it, right? So, as always, a quick reminder, like I said, these challenges are happening every single month. Every single month, you have a new data set, new sort of guidelines on what you want to do or what you need to take into consideration. And for those of you who are new here, one thing I always want to remind is remember that every single one of these challenges, once it closed, goes into the archive. So every single month when you start off, whether you're new here or you're already experienced, you can go through the previous month's challenges and look at the submissions, look at people what have they've been doing, what type of visuals they're using. If you see an interesting approach, see how they've done it. And for every one of these reports, the one thing I can emphasize on why I think it's important is if you, for example, like something from this report in particular, but just don't know how to do it, every single report author is available right here through LinkedIn. Just reach out to them. The worst thing scenario that can happen is they're gonna not reply. Well, basically, you're in the same position that you were before, so you're not really losing anything, right? Get in touch with people, ask them for comments, ask them for guidance. So use every single resource you have at your disposal. All right, but enough about that. I think it's time for the top 5. So the top 5, of course, is going to be in randomized order. Otherwise, wouldn't really make sense to go through this, right? So one of the submissions that has gotten into the top 5 comes from Pantan Duan. So congratulations to you. Your report has gotten into the top 5. Let's open it up and have a closer look at it. So I'm just going to open up this view. And let's start off here. So give me a quick look at this. There we go. Gotta love when it's a live session and the visuals are gonna be like, nah, I'm gonna take a while to load in, right?
Yeah, Power BI serving like to do that and keep us waiting.
Especially when you need it to work fast. There we go. Suddenly now everything more shows up. All right. So regarding this one, my personal feeling is it looks good, but for me personally, it feels a little bit too overcrowded. The main reason why I'm saying this is because you basically have already 2 different tables, which requires a person to already focus a lot of attention to just go through all that information. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying it could be sort of minimized a bit more. There's just too much information thrown me at the same time simultaneously. That's one thing. But the one thing I like about this is that you actually took a little bit of effort as well and actually added the icons. Now, as much as everybody's going to tell you that having images and so forth, it takes away the resources. I agree. But doesn't everyone agree with me that looking at these icons allows you to understand what's going to be the domain a lot faster than going through the names? It does, right? We know these icons, everybody familiarizes them. We use these every single day and see them every day. That's why icons in a lot of cases are actually very useful. So that's something to take into account. Now, what else? Regarding the cards, I would probably, from my perspective, say that these numbers should be a little bit bigger because they're one of the key focus points. So you want to make sure that the user sees them straight away. Right now, they feel that like they're kind of hidden a bit, kind of squashed down a bit. But it's nothing you can fix relatively simply. So that's from my perspective one of the things here. What else? I still like the fact that even though, for example, if we remove these two tables, I would honestly say that the report would just look a lot cleaner. That's purely for me from a visual perspective. I like that you have a filter panel. This can, of course, be either always visible or some of you have already implemented in this different cases where you can open and close it. But I think it's a good approach that you have it somewhere on the side. And the fact that you're using the whole side for navigational and filtering purposes just makes the user understand that that side is not going to be visual. That's going to be purely for control of some sorts. Whether it's for navigation, whether it's for filtering, whether it's something else that's available, that side gets separated away from you. So that's one good thing that you've done here as well. Now, what else we have here? If we click, for example, on the guide, there's a small little quick introduction guide explaining the conversions and the metrics, so that how they're being calculated. We have also, of course, clear all filters, which in my opinion is everybody can tell me whatever they want, but this is one of the most crucial parts of every single report, the ability to just clear everything and start fresh. I can't emphasize enough on how important it is to add this because it just allows you to very quickly get back to that initial view. So that's one of the things that I really like about it. Now, there are a few additional pages. We have also an overview. Then we have a geographical analysis. For the geographic analysis, I love the map, but for the map, I would probably just play around with the max node sizes a bit, because right now you can see that these, for example, are overlapping a bit. So just adjusting the minimum and maximum size of the clusters would help you to avoid these sort of scenarios. Or alternatively, increase the clustering distance so that the clusters are getting created from larger areas to kind of avoid these sort of conflict situations. So that's an additional comment here. Like the fact also that you allow the user to reshift his focus on certain areas of the map. The one thing that I'm kind of feeling that I would really love to have here is the ability to actually see the whole world simultaneously. Just have it as an option. If the user doesn't need it, he can simply ignore it, but it would allow me to sort of have a quick overview of everything if I wanted to. And then for the details, well, this is where you would basically use a drill through page, sort of, where you go through a single point of entry, for example, whether it's a campaign name, whether it's a campaign time, or anything like that, and look deeper into the details. So overall, my opinion is it's a good report. There are a few things that could be improved upon, and the primary thing that I would probably focus on is going to be the cards itself, because the cards is something you want to definitely make sure that the user notices and they're clearly visible. All right. Rico, any comments from your side?
I actually love it. The report. I agree with you. I agree with you that perhaps it's too much information, but because that information is kind of boxed in little frames around and doesn't actually hit me in the face too much. But I agree with you, it's too many they have. And yes, the KPI guys, they are key important information. They are big number. You need to let them see themselves. These are my sales, 40 million, not 40 billion liters. You are selling 40 million or whatever you're selling. Okay, so this number has to be much bigger. I will put it at 35, 30. It probably goes. Okay, then the bottom box, if you go to the left there, it's slightly smaller to the one on the top. Am I incorrect? If you go to the top right of that bottom, we can see that they are not aligned together. It's a little bit smaller.
These two, yeah?
Yeah, the bottom one is a bit smaller. A silly mistake, but small details, okay, are very important in the finishing of the report, okay? As I mentioned before, I really like it. I like the color palette, it's so simple, it's black and white. And there is, you cannot get lost. with it on color. So I personally love it. Ahmed, anything to comment?
Yeah, I love the dashboard. I think he did a fantastic job. But I disagree with you, Federico, about the coloring. I think three or four primary colors would have done a lot to contribute to the data story. So just to tell, okay, which is the higher, which is the low, what are the negatives. So the only coloring here I can see when it comes to data is on the cards up in the top, the KPI cards. And
Yeah.
also, it's not eye catching. It's like a pinky orange and baby blue. I would have preferred like solid green and solid red to just once I open the dashboard, I see what's wrong, what's going very well, and then drill through from there to understand more information about the data I want to do. I like the left main menu, but I think it could have been collapsible. But some people just prefer to do that. But I think it can be collapsible because the main thing that you need to answer the questions, and whenever you need to filter something or do some sort of aggregation, you can do it in other ways or just open that main menu and focus the main dashboard on that. When it comes to the geographical page, I agree with Ivis when it comes to the charts. It An all overview of the whole world would have been fantastic, but also I like what he have done here.
Yeah.
Um and the overlaying of the charts, Ivis, I have faced this problem so many times. It's so hard to make it perfect. It's impossible because if you fix it in one continent, it will be uh, worse in other continent, for example. So I think if he could a little bit played with the coloring, could have
Hmm.
done the same effect, even if you have two overlaying charts on the map.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also the details, it's simple. I like it simple. I don't like to be overcomplicated, but I think a little bit of coloring when it comes to percentages and numbers would have been a lot effective. But amazing work, seriously.
All right. Well, congratulations again in getting into the top five. I think it's time to move on to the next one. So the next submission that has gotten into the top five comes from Naveen K. Kuchani. So congratulations to you. Let's open up the report and take a closer look at that. Do-do-do-do-do. Come on, sirs. You can't do this to me.
He's doing it.
It's doing it. All right. So for this one, the first thing that I can straight away tell you, I don't care about everything else. But one thing that just confused me for like 10 seconds. You can tell me whatever you want, but this is a play button.
Yeah,
tried to click on it on like 30 times, but nothing happened. The next
yeah,
thing I thought is, okay, it's gonna move with the page navigation, but then you go to a different page, but it's still there. Unless an element is needed and it provides additional value or context, do not have any additional things there just because. Because otherwise, it felt like an item that I'm supposed to interact with. It's
yeah,
distracting. That's straight away comment. The reason why I'm telling you this straight away is because these small little things are going to matter. Trust me. Whenever you present this, for example, to a possible, um, for example, job application or any potential employer or anything, they're going to notice these things. So make sure you try to avoid anything that is unnecessary. Other than that, the one thing I feel about this one is I like that you actually have separated lines about the visuals and the KPIs. That approach I love, but I think the KPI cards are a little bit too excessive. What I mean by this, you have the total numbers, which is fine. I like the fact that this one splits down to the most important kind of four dimensions, right? Total mails, clients, leads, customers, the full funnel basically. But afterwards, you have the number, you have the percentage rate, and then you have a visual, and that happens for every single one of them. If I try to interact with anything, there's too much moving part to the whole wheel, I would say. And it takes a lot for a report to fully reutilize itself. I still think that it is beneficial, but I think this is something that people need to be cautious about when you're developing these complex KPI cards. Sometimes less is more. You could create a separate visual for that, or just leave it as a separate instance. But that's my initial comment. As far as the navigation goes, I actually like this sort of tab approach. That you have main pages right here, and that's why they're left in the sort of the blue area, right? The top ribbon. So that's the page navigation. And then you actually have slicers, which are tiles. And they just fit in nice and neatly. The one thing that I would most likely play around maybe a little bit is the way on how an unselected button looks like. Because if a user hasn't used Power BI, for example, previously, or they just haven't played around with slicers and typically have a drop down or a list, if you look at them straight away, you can't really see a distinguishment that these are going to be actionable items. It feels like it's just a text box with some metric, there, some basically representation of different segments. Okay, we have information for these 3 months, we have these two segments, we have these three devices, right? A slight coloring just to indicate that this is an item would be perfect, I think. But other than that, I like the fact that it's very easy for the user to just select a particular sort of tile and just refocus or shift your focus on something particular. Same as applying different conversion targets, campaign types, so forth. So you have a lot of different dimensions that you can slice and dice through. That it's a nice approach that you also created this one. So ability to switch between days, months, and weeks. The reason why I think sometimes this is more beneficial than just having a single visual with the whole timeline is because it allows the user to just focus on that one dimension rather than just trying to kind of reposition the timeline to allow you to see a month, to basically go through the drill down, right? And that sort of stuff. But I think it's a nice touch. If we go to geographics, um, purely from a visual perspective, this looks nice. It's easily understandable. For this one, I'd say, again, a little bit too much information, especially with all the different colors. I understand that every single dimension you're trying to basically represent with a different color. But then again, if this means bounce, the yellow color, then I expect that this is also going to be a bounce, right? Be careful with these colors. As soon as you try to implement it, make sure it's going to be unanimized across the report. So that's just one overall thing. But I like the fact that you actually allow the user to switch between the table and the sort of actual map. There's going to be people who are going to tell you that map is always the best approach because people know where things are, located in the world. It's not always the case. It's not that people don't know where countries are, for example. They have an idea of where they are, at least, right? It's just that for other people, it's a lot easier to read the information in this way because they're so used to Excel. We've been using it for tens of years now. So we're very used to seeing table views, and just allowing them to switch between one, I think it's a good approach for especially sort of adapting to different audiences. So I like that approach. And if you go to campaign, it's similar. You have multiple different dimensions. Although for this one, I think the two-layered approach with the slicers kind of feels again a little bit too overwhelming. There's now too many movable parts to it. I'd say the first approach where you just had a single line with the main topics would be sufficient. Other than that, I think the visuals that you've chosen are good. Few sort of color choices might be something you might reconsider, but other than that, I think it's a good report. It's very well made, and yeah, my overall opinion is there's a reason why you're in the top five. Quite simple. Ahmed, your comments.
Yeah, I like the report, but I think it's too overcrowded, especially
Okay.
with the headers and the trying to shove a lot of information into the cards. But overall, it's really nice. Also, I had that same comment about that play button. So I think this is very, very important. Um, what else? The geographic page, I like it. I like the ability to switch between tables. The coloring, actually, I don't have a big problem with it. I think it's perfect. It makes me read the data very fast. But
Mhm.
as you said, it should be the coloring should be aligned in every chart. It shouldn't be confusing, and every chart has its own color palette. And in the campaign page, I think it's simple. It gets to the point, and also have the ability to switch between the visuals and the tables. But again, it's the only thing that I think it can be enhanced is the top part
Mhm.
is the header, the filters, the continent. I think a collapsible filter pan would be amazing, but
Mhm.
other than that, it's good. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there's always something new you can add, right? I remember
But
when. Yeah, go
there
ahead.
is something that I keep telling everybody. Power BI enables you, especially Power BI, enables you to have unlimited amount of pages. Don't be afraid of using pages to describe your data story. Don't try to put everything in the same page. Make it neat, make it understandable every page, but also give the ability to drill down. Keep asking the top questions, and from there, give them the ability to go to the more detailed questions. So this is my comment. You don't have to put every single thing in the same page. Try to make it easy to understand, because trust me, the stakeholders who are looking to the dashboards are already having problems, already having anxiety. You don't need to be more anxious about too much information in one page.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things that, guys, remember that the whole data set we give you doesn't mean that you have to analyze every single possible dimension that's out there. Create the data story from the data you have, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to utilize and try to figure out every possible metric that's out there. No, focus on one or two, three different things and try to analyze those, but do it properly. Because what Ahmed said, when these visuals were sort of the story of the report gets too overcrowded with a lot of different dimensions, a lot of different questions that you're asking, you're essentially just trying to squeeze everything in. And trust me, we've all done that. That's how Power BI, I think it was in the very beginning, that was in every single report. Everybody was just putting everything everywhere. But now people are starting to understand that it's a lot more important to actually be able to tell the story with that particular page you have in front of you. So just think about it slightly differently. Don't try to cover everything.
One,
Cover your question. Yeah, Federico, go ahead.
one, one minor thing. He has you the filter clear filter button in Power BI,
Yeah.
top of the right. That only filters or clear the filters.
So
Okay.
slicers, yeah.
Yeah. So if you are filtering by visual, that will not be cleared out.
Ay, ay,
Okay.
ay, ay,
Oh,
ay.
So remember that this button only filter or clear the slicer. It doesn't clear any filtering by the visuals.
Yep.
great catch, Federico. I didn't
That's
catch it, to be honest.
yeah, that is the only little thing. Apart from that, the page, the main page, take too long to render altogether. Every time you do a change, you have to wait, and that is annoying. Remember, I'm very busy. Okay, I know here to waste my time waiting for the page to render. So that's something we need to have in our head, and to be think, okay, that's taking too long. I'm gonna take this, this, and this. I'm gonna make quicker. I'm gonna make them to transition to the next page where I can carry on, okay, explaining my insights. But apart from that, I like it.
Absolutely. And yeah, one thing, guys, I wanted to remind you is if you do have any questions, don't be hesitant. Ask them in the environment where you're at, so the platform where you're at, and we're gonna cover them afterwards. So no issues about that, right? All right. The next report that has gotten itself into the top five comes from Zakarai Fadili. So congratulations, Zakarai. Let's open it up and take a closer look at it. All right, for this one, Ahmed, do you want to take the first first word?
No. I love you. Do the
I
heavy
love you too,
lifting,
man.
and then I just do
There you go. So
because
I go. So I go. Don't fight.
yeah.
I go myself.
Go ahead.
Fadili has been participating with us for now quite a few challenges.
Hmm.
Okay, if I'm not able to compare his previous challenges, so the first one and this one, you can see the massive improvement, okay, in the way he developed report, okay, and I think this report has everything you might want to have. It's not overcrowded. It has a good color palette. I like monochromatic color palette. I mean, that's the reason I don't like too many colors, but that is my preference. And I just want to say well done to Fadili. I love the report that the facility to be able to move across with the tabs. There is not much variation between the graphic in the pages. Very probably quite similar. But it's telling me, okay, I am now in click rate, and I am looking at what happened on the click rate information. And then I go to the open rate, and I can read the same information. And then to the other one, it's easy for me to digest and to understand. I'm not gonna look at anything else because there is one very important thing, guys, for you to understand. If I like what I see, it is easier for me to forgive the mistake.
Yeah.
Okay?
True.
It's a rule. It's a rule of design. If what I look is good looking, if there is a couple of mistakes, I'm happy to just go through by then and not be bothered. Okay, so Fadili, excellent job. I would like to congratulate you from the excellent, okay, development and the way you have progress in our challenges.
Absolutely. And I think this report kind of covers what we talked about just in the previous one, where the information is just trying to be sort of analyzed from multiple dimensions simultaneously. This approach is what I would expect, right? These are completely different metrics in an essence, but you're using exactly the same visuals to tell that story. So it means that the dimensions that you have chosen here to present with different campaigns, campaign types, segments, devices is all that you need in an overview. Because this is the main thing about an overview page, right? We're not going into details. We're just trying to understand the overall situation. So allowing me to quickly switch between the metrics is all I need. I see clearly the main metrics, but every single one of them is analyzed in a deeper sense in that way. So I really love that approach. If we go to the campaign analysis, I would probably say that, again, be cautious about making sure that these colors, for example, are kind of close to each other. It's an easy fix. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be a strike one. But it's just something to take into account whenever you're building the color palettes and the sort of slices of the colors in the visual. So yeah, that's one of the things. But the one thing that I really like about this is that, and I think you've done this in previous reports as well, where you actually utilized this visual as a filter for the one that's showcasing the whole world. So you're essentially allowing the user to, first of all, even though you have a map here, right, you have a chart that allows you to understand the global situation overall, and then actually use one of the slices as a filter to investigate a map, so that cross filters. And this one, I can actually start zooming in and investigate. So you're basically allowing that drill down approach that allows the user to start with an overview and then dig deeper into the details when he needs to. You're not forcing him to do it. You're allowing him to do it through different ways. Of course, if he doesn't want to select a slice and use that as a tool, you can just use the visual itself, right? But those are just two different ways, and I think the reason why this works so good is because, like I said, it allows the user to choose which approach is better for him. You're not forcing him to do only one thing. You're giving them options. I like the ability that you actually can switch between, again, the table and the purely visual aspect of it, because sometimes you want things more representable. Like, think about an infographic, right? Things need to look nice. Whereas if people care purely about the numbers, well, this is what you want to see there. But this isn't what you want to showcase on a poster. A poster looks nicer like this. right? That's what it is. Data visualization is all about trying to communicate the data in different ways. So I think this is a very good touch upon it. Uh, the other thing that I like about this is that it actually allows you to have a filter on the side. This could always be extended more, and I think this is kind of an idea that you're giving to the end user. At least that's the feeling that I got from it. Is because I have this white space, I have a feeling, okay, so we can add more there if it's needed to, right? So there is ability to adjust this. I'm not utilizing the whole space necessarily all the time. So that's one thing. And the dimensions that you created here don't force me to kind of stick with one option. The only one exception is if I go to month and I select the month, this leaves me with just a single month. But that's a nuance that we can quickly cover and try to figure out on how to approach this differently. But other than that, I really like the report. I like the simplicity and the look and feel of this one. So those are my main comments. Ahmed?
Yeah, so I think Fadil have created for himself an unfair advantage of an amazing first impression. I'm always against dashboards that utilizes only one primary coloring within the charts,
Hmm.
but in the overview page he done it somehow perfectly. I just love the overview page. I love how he seamlessly can digest the data. Again, I think the filter pan can be collapsible, but to be honest, it looks amazing, even though it just doesn't bother me. He did it in a way that it doesn't attract your attention. He did the visualization in such coloring that you will only focus on the data and the answers that you are looking for. And for the campaign page, I think it's just perfect. I love the coloring. And as I said, Ivis, before, the overlaying of charts,
Yeah,
when he used a couple of primary and a couple of colors with it, it's clear. It
yeah,
just looks fantastic. Yeah. So, no, I'm sorry, but I can't say anymore. I love this report.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, the one great point about this is it's simple and efficient. It tells the
Amazing.
story, it shows the data, it allows you to filter from different dimensions, look at different KPIs. So,
Because when I try to, I have faced this too many times at the
mhm.
beginning of my career. I didn't consider at the beginning of my career that the user is a human being like me, but you need to consider that he has anxiety, he has time limitation, he needs to get to the answer as fast as possible, and he have done that in this report. He gave me the answers extremely quickly in a very seamless way, and I just feel comfortable consuming the data and the answers within the dashboard. So amazing work, man.
Yeah,
And at the same time, you have three professionals giving you different views, and as you can see, there are differences
yeah,
in the way they are met approach her color palette. I approach my color palette. So when we are providing you with a feedback, it's not wrong or good. It's totally my personal feedback, and I want you guys to receive it this way. I'm not complaining. Okay, I'm giving you my personal view because on the other hand, Ahmed might say, "I love it." Federico might not like it, but I love it.
Yeah,
So,
that's
guys,
fine.
remember that everybody is a word and every user is different.
And one thing that I think we can cover with this report is sort of to showcase when we were talking about overcrowding and everything, right? Whenever you go to a customer, for example, one thing that every single one of you is going to come across, and this is inevitable, you just do it every single time. Whenever you're going to ask them, what exactly do you need? Most of the time, the actual customer doesn't really know exactly what he needs. He has an idea of what he needs, but it's your job to present it in a way where he says, yeah, that's what I need. So
Yeah.
the one trick that I can definitely tell you is the same thing as I said in the very beginning. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and please ask questions. Sure, in this case, you don't have anybody to ask, direct questions. What are we supposed to showcase there? Because there will be a bit of an unfair advantage. You all get the same approach. You get the data set, and you kind of deliver on it. But think about it as you would be delivering this to an end user as a physical customer, right? So you ask as many questions as you want. So, for example, he says, I need these KPIs. Okay. Do you need to just see them, or do you want to analyze them? Do you want to analyze them by what? What are going to be the main dimensions? Do you want them to be always there, or do you want them to be? So there's going to be X, Y, Z, and even Z, 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 Z questions. That's fine. There's always going to be multiple iterations of the report. That's also fine. The main thing is just playing around and making sure that when you look at it, you feel good about it. That's the main thing about it. All right, let's move on to the next one. So the next submission that has gotten into the top five comes from Zulay Vivas. So congratulations, Zulay. And for this one, I think, yeah, Federico, any comments from your side? I'm opening it
Yes,
up.
Sulaya. I remember talking in LinkedIn with Sulaya about her color palette
Mhm.
choices. Okay, at the beginning it was very word color all over the places. Now she came down to a monochromatic that I love it. Okay, and her report development has increased like 500%. Okay, it's massive and very good to know how much she has improved. Okay, from the Fed report to today. Again, I'm not gonna get into if I like them bigger or smaller. There is a problem with the alignment on the top card. I don't know why there is the
Yeah,
top on
here.
the right and the top. There is a little bit of the alignment is not 100%, but again, because I like it, I can forgive it. But remember, a small details guy, this little thing. Okay, if I get too many little things, it becomes a big problem. Then I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree
Okay,
with you, Federico, within this, if I may jump in,
yeah,
because a lot of developers think that this are a small comment, but actually it could drive some stakeholders nuts. They will keep focusing on these gaps and forget about the answers that they're looking for.
100%.
Yeah,
And we're talking about sometimes directors or top people that they have their own OCD, and that will be a negative
exactly.
for them. I got a client that he didn't like a filter like because he remember of something to him. So I had to take the filter off. I said, this guy is silly, but nobody wants his OCD. Okay,
Yeah,
so we took
exactly.
it off. We took it off. But apart from that, Sulai, beautiful report. There is not much I can actually. I mean, if I start looking for little mistake, I probably find one or two. But no, I'm gonna stop here and congratulate Sulai in a very good report.
All right, Ahmed, from your side.
Yeah, I initially like it, but I think that again we are with the same problem that um, that a lot of developers fall into,
Mhm.
that you don't, that they feel that they need to answer every question that comes up into their mind in one page or in only 3 pages. You need to make it as simple as possible. I see a lot of numbers. Yes, if I thought about any kind of question in mind, I will find it in each one of these pages, but it makes me anxious. It just, I think that um, simplifying the dashboard and focusing on the answering the top question and then drill down from there would be great. But other than that, I think she have used the visualization perfectly. Again, I'm against one coloring in the reports, which is my opinion, but she did it really well. I like the cards above. Yes, it could be a little bit enhanced, but I like that she focused on the main KPIs and she gave you like a small chart that give you a quick indication of what's going on over those 3 months. So yeah, I think it's really, really good. But just make it simple. Just think about the end user. Think how busy and anxious he is, and he wants the answer really quickly, and you're gonna do amazing job. That's it.
One more
Yeah.
thing, maybe.
Go
Go to
ahead.
the segment page, please.
Yeah.
Click on one of the dots in the line chart. There you go.
You found it.
That is just a small mistake that really, really annoys me. So like, remember to check all the filters once and again. You think you finish. No, you still have 2 or 3 hours to go. Checking that everything works to perfection.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I noticed this, and the other thing is on the overview page, the one thing that I'm gonna mention every single time because it just comes up is make sure you don't have the same dimension in multiple visuals. Because what happens is as soon as I do one click, I basically force 3 visuals to only have one column or just limit it very narrowly because they're not gonna automatically all drill down to the next layer. So be very cautious about this, right? You don't want to have the same dimension on multiple visuals. And if I, for example, even select one, so which was one point where I got a little bit confused is I did the same thing. I took July, I let it filter. And what you're going to notice in the, let's try to apply the filter again. And what you're going to notice here is I basically just have a green dot. And I spent like a minute or two thinking like, why is there just a random green dot there? What does it
Because it's
represent?
1 month. Yeah.
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 And since it's not even in the middle, it's just in the beginning, it just feels like, what is this one weird random dot?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing is what Federico and Ahmed already mentioned, right? Regarding the cards, make sure that the alignment is positioned, and you can do this in Power BI very simply because you can just select all of them, and under formatting you have alignment, vertical and horizontal. 2 clicks and you have everything perfectly positioned in the exact same distribution. The other thing is try to avoid doing this, cutting the card visually in half with the header. Either extend the header part longer so that the cards are in the header, or finish the header prior to the cards. Because what happens purely visually is you're making me always try to refocus my vision on the card itself because it's sitting on basically a cutoff point. So it's just purely visual thing. But like Federico said, right, if you cover the visual parts, I'm more going to be more generous on saying, okay, that's just a small issue.
Correct.
So these are my quick comments. I'd say other than that, I think it's a simple report. It's a good, but just try to limit the amount of information that you're trying to position in a single page. Overcrowded reports are always heavy to consume.
And remember, you are in the top 5 because you did amazing job.
Exactly.
What we are presenting is not we're not just looking for mistakes. We're just giving you a recommendation from our point of view, from our experience, to get to the best point, to put the end user in your mind, for example. But we're not just saying, okay, this is a mistake or this is bad. We're just giving you a recommendation to be as perfect as possible. And you are in the top 5.
Exactly. Because I mean, we could sit here, right, for an hour and just say how everything is great and perfect, but what's the point of that?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So the last report that has gotten itself into the top 5 comes from Agbada Dixon-Okoloya. So congratulations to you, Agbada. Now let's open it up and take a closer look at it. So for this one, Federico, Ahmed, who wants to take the first one?
Come on, Ahmed.
Federico.
Ahmed. Okay, here I go. All the problem. Again, very simple. This time he put the KPIs vertical, and you go looking icon. They are too big for me, the icons. The icons are bigger than the number. I prefer the number to be bigger than the icon. Okay. And again, it goes with a monochromatic color palette, but then the two donut sharp have a different color. I don't know why he didn't follow up on the monochromatic or decide to get a color that are distinct. It looked like he jumped from one color to another without any consideration.
Mhm.
Performance, if you move to performance, again, everything seems to be okay until you go to the two bottom visual and you have a different color. We don't know where it's coming from. This time is orange. If we go to geographical, now it goes all brown. Okay. My point is that there needs to be a continuation in your color palette. I agree with Ahmed too. When I have to, in the sense of the color gives you information. Color is not just color. Color provides you with information. Every time I see blue is America. Every time I see green is Greenland, for example. But you need to follow this color through your report. Otherwise, we don't know why is that color brown now. Okay. Device and domain. Okay, we have in this case, I'm gonna forget the color because you have four different vertical, okay, kind of big TPI card, whatever you wanna call this for line. And because they follow, you look at the top left, it's purple. So the line is purple, the down is purple, and the stack column chart is purple. Okay, I get that. All that belong to that group. And then I move to the other one is this purple, fuchsia, whatever color is that. Okay. And then you move, you have a kind of dark blue, dark purple, or dark blue, and then you move to the other, the brown.
Mhm.
This page, I like it regarding the color palette. Okay. Apart from that, I like the report is simply, I don't think it's complicated. We have a little bit of the color palette, but apart from that, and I know Adbata now for also a long time, for a year and a half or more, that we know each other. We have been in the competition game. So congratulations and well done.
All right. Ahmed, anything?
Yeah, I think it's seamless. Yeah, I totally agree with Federico when it comes to the big icons with the coloring, but at the same time, it's not crowded. It doesn't give me anxiety. It's I know where exactly the buttons are, where are the filters, how to drill through the charts. So to me, this is the most important thing when it comes to visualizing data and trying to present a data story. But my best page on this report is gonna be devices and domain analysis. I
Yeah.
just love this page. And the second I saw it, I thought, okay, this would be perfect to be on mobile also for the like the director of
Yeah.
marketing or yeah, this it's gonna be seamless to just drag and drop these designs to be on mobile. It's amazing. So great job. Yes, the coloring could be a little bit improved, but you have done a great job doing not giving me anxiety, of course, and making the data story seamless. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. From my side, the only real comment I had right here is for total emails, since it's a different type of card because it doesn't follow everything else, right? What I would recommend is just make sure that since we're not going over 100K, just show the whole number,
The phone number.
because otherwise you're cutting it off without a real reason, right? You have the space to showcase it correctly, so I would probably do that. Other than that, one thing that I really like, it's a small touch, but if you see right here, for example, bounce rate, you show the percentages, but you also have the actual number. So how much is that based on the total? Because everything is based on the previous total. So I like really that approach. I like the fact that you also kind of highlighted the min max, which is something that you're gonna just start seeing a lot more everywhere, also on LinkedIn and everywhere. But there's a reason why that's happening, because for most of the times it's really important just to understand your best and worst. Everything else in between means we're going up and down. That's understandable. But what was our lowest and what's our highest? Just so we kind of have a reference point. So that's a very good approach. For the other pages, the one thing I would say, and this is something you got to be careful about, whenever you have two different scales for two different columns, make sure you visually separate them as well.
Little bit.
Because otherwise, at the very first glance, it feels like I have more emails clicked than I have delivered. Whereas delivered is 11K, this is 309.82. Just, a slight difference in the numbers. So just make sure that they're going to be sitting either on the same scale, or if you do it on separate ones, create a gap between them so the user visually distinguishes them and separates them. Or alternatively, make it a line or something else just to kind of purely separate the correlation there. But other than that, I really like the report. It's a simple report and it does its job. This page, like Ahmed said, would work perfectly on a mobile device, especially if you would utilize also field parameters, for example, to allow the user to switch between the metrics. Just have everything in a single view. That's it. It's perfect. But yeah, congratulations into getting to the top 5. So I think it's time for the winner announcement,
Yes,
right?
give me before we.
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
give me a second. Just a big hello to Said Gamal from Germany. Everybody in LinkedIn knows Said. You know how good he is. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you,
Hello,
Said.
Saeed.
All right, let me just quickly open up the right report. Don't want to fail as well at the very most important part of the thing.
And the winner
With a little bit of
is.
drum roll is. Sure? No? Yeah. Yay! Danilo
Yeah,
Zakaria,
No!
congratulations.
it is a brilliant report. Well deserved. That was a really good looking report anyway. I think I'm gonna copy you, Zakaria. I'm telling you here in presence of everybody. So nobody will tell me I am copying you because I am copying you. Well done.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
Zakaria,
Nice.
you should teach people and get money out of it on how to do such an amazing work. How did you think about this report? How did you design it? I know it sounds seamless report, but it's so hard to reach such results. The way that you thought about it, I'm sure it needs to be taught to other people.
I mean, I think it's one of the trickiest things, right? To everybody from the side, it seems like, you're just putting into visuals, putting in some buttons, and that's it.
No.
There's a whole process that's involved into that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations to you, man, again.
it
Yeah,
looks
go ahead.
simple, but I know from the gradient background, you have to, when you have a gradient background, you have to make sure all the sides now start matching the changing color of the background. So believe me, it's not that simple and easy to do. It's an excellent job.
Yeah, there's no
No,
arguing
and
that.
thinking of the concept takes time. People think that you just put visualization and just put the number and just do the DAX. No, the concept and how you are going to present the data story at the end takes a lot of talent, but a lot of effort also and a lot of time. So really, man, great job. Congratulations, you deserve it.
Yeah,
Do we have
because
any questions? Do we
yeah,
know?
let's see if we have
Sorry,
any
sorry.
questions. For this one, I think the main thing that I loved about it the most is the actual, like you Ahmed said, the sort of the vision that he had with the report, and that is that instead of focusing just on covering every single question that there might be, I'm focusing on the KPIs. Everything else explains the KPI. So that's one thing that I really loved about it.